Hello, this is Five Mualim Ag, founder, president of Incarcerated Nation Network. Some time ago, 2015, 2016, we brought you several productions like Rikers in American Jail and other documentary productions around the conditions of confinement and the collateral consequences that people face in incarceration. At that time, in partnership with Univision, we were trying to launch a podcast called Killing Rikers, which was a podcast series that sort of broke down the conditions of Rikers, the history of it, but also to speak about the formation of jails in America, period. These conversations would include rap artists, different people who are impacted, actors, stars, because incarceration impacts us all. We're bringing back this series and sort of bringing it up to date. We will be talking about segmented issues that happens to people on Rikers, the conditions of confinement. What happens when family members go to visit? We'll hear from different legislators who have the impact. We'll hear from different legislators who don't make the impact to change the lives of people. We're closing Rikers Island in 2026, which I'm very proud to announce. But it took a lot of work from dedicated activists, organizers, and post-incarcerated leaders themselves. We'll hear from these leaders and we'll hear this story as this will be a blueprint to tear down jails in other states. Please stay tuned for future episodes and other personal dialogue. Check out my Five Talks page. Bail reform, which actually swept a lot of people out. So we're down to about under 9,000 people right now in Rikers. It's important because at this moment, Rikers is going through rulemaking process. So for the first time, we have the second largest county jail on the planet are now going to have rules. So it's also the Ellis Allen of brutality for New York, where people are brought in on small charges and held for years, often spending their life there or the cause of their life there. So it's important now because more than ever, correction officers at Rikers are going through a changing format of creating an environment minus the brutality. Right. And that's going to take films like this to humanize those inside, you know?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think, now that you bring that up, I think the case of your brother, Akeem, I mean, is the prime example of people brought in for nothing and just paying, like, the ultimate price. Could you tell us how Rikers impacted you and a little bit about your brother's story and the work you're doing now?
Yeah, in a roundabout, basically, what they saw and what we see on a daily basis. Khalif Browder, my brother, he's not just one, but he's one of many that go through the system unjustly, unruly, and just complete disregard of what we say we stand or what America stands on. So you have policy, procedure, rules, regulations, law, and when that's bypassed, you have what happened with Khalif, where you can have a 16-year-old just swept up off the street because he's black and out at a time that police feel they should be the authority figures and what they say goes. So basically they swept up Khalif, which is kidnapping, for a lie and saying that he stole a backpack. He inevitably did 3 years on Rikers, and when they decided to let him go, it was only because, not because they were doing the right thing. It was saying, you know what, we are tired of this and we don't want this to continue, so Khalif, go home. That's what they wanted you to believe, but realistically, they could only make him serve a maximum of 3 years. Found guilty at 3 years, but he was not found guilty, so they decided to let him go because a day more, an hour more, is more than just constitutionally incorrect. So they let him go with the presumption that, you know, we're doing what's right by this kid. You should have done that within the first 3 days, because they didn't have an actual person. And what we have now is like D.A. Clark, who's now the D.A. in her first year of service for the Bronx, and D.A. Clark is now going to be giving at the end of this year. She's going to be speaking of her, you know, her glorious track record for this 1 year and how she's putting things to accountability, holding police to accountability. However, she was the judge who kept Khalif in jail.
Wow. And he never faced trial. Like, he was just in jail for 3 years and then they let him out.
Yeah,
he went through
they didn't
horrible
want him to go
violence.
to trial.
Right.
They didn't let him either. He had a 40-40. He put in the motions for trial, speedy trial. Mm-hmm. And that's actually what we actually did. We fought for a new speedy trial, which is named Khalif Browder, which we lobbied on last year. Republicans didn't go for it. However, this year we had 31 signers, and what that speedy trial highlights is the way that the system plays with the time clock and allows the system to keep a person like Khalif and much more for 3 years in solitary in a gladiator school for the fight for your life.
Wow, absolutely. Well, so apparently there was an issue at the beginning with the introduction. So just for people who missed who you are, you're Keem Browder. You're the founder of the Shut Down Rikers movement.
The campaign to shut down Rikers, not close Rikers.
Oh, okay. Campaign to shut down Rikers.
Yeah.
And your brother Khalif was at Rikers. You just told us that story.
Yeah.
Five Mali Mak from Incarcerated Nation, and Chi Ali, who's a rapper, artist, activist, and a friend of Track Record. So I think, speaking of that, you just called it a gladiator school because of the level of violence that goes on in there, right? So I think there's a clip from the documentary about that culture of violence.
It's gladiator school for real. If you get there and you don't have a weapon to defend yourself, you have an issue.
Violence rules, predator prey. That never changes.
I'm in a situation where I can't run from. But my whole time in the streets, that's all I ever been doing is fighting. So I'm looking like I'm in a place where I always trained for, but just didn't know it.
The sad part is the alternative to violence is more violence. And when somebody realizes that you're willing to be more violent than they are less prone to be violent.
They taught me how to use a level of violence that I could never imagine I was capable of doing.
My son?
So, Chi, why don't you... I mean, everyone has heard about the brutal things that happen in there, but I mean, what are your reactions to it? What are some of the things that you saw firsthand that changed you?
I mean, it's a bunch of from common fights, assaults to jumping, whether it's inmates jumping inmates, police jumping inmates, cuttings, beating with weapons, be it walkie-talkies, the nightsticks, billy clubs, whatever. I don't know what the common lingo for it is now. It's just a culture of gang mentality, actually. It's just they're the legal blue gang. And it's said that we have to call it that, but that's what it has become. Because at the end of the day, if you have a group of people who we pay as society, we pay and to do a job, and they take it upon themselves to go above and beyond, and then the ones who don't go above and beyond have that blue code of silence, that wall of silence, where they turn a blind eye. So it's like, it's crazy. It's like it's no cameras in there. It's no phones in there. So imagine all the things we miss out here, but now we seeing a whole bunch of stuff, but we still miss a lot out here.
Yep.
We miss everything in there. So it's just, I mean, it can be so crazy when you dealing with adolescents who can very easily be manipulated, or even when you're dealing with adults, when you have female COs who manipulate inmates. They manipulate inmates, not just female COs, but male COs too. They can manipulate inmates with food or, just little special privileges. And in turn for that, they may have an inmate assault another inmate because that inmate may have called them a bitch or whatever. I mean, it's a million and one different scenarios how it can and does happen. But it's a lose-lose situation, and it's no police in there. It's no one policing the COs in there. And until we have something that's in place to watch them, that the people who are against the police or that the people who are against the police are with. Meaning, if we have to be able to put that police force there. Because if it's just the police putting the police force there, a lot of times it's the same thing. They covering up for each other because half the people on IG used to be COs.
Exactly.
So some of them want to bust ass, but some of them is trying to protect their COs.
And it's sort of a weird environment because it's like a soundtrack.
It's a world within a world. The same way I'm sure like Univision and just the whole film industry is one world where you may know someone who works at another network because y'all work on a project here. In the same way the baseball industry and Major League Sports is like that, prison system is just like that. It's just a system where I'll bump into him here, he could leave me, I could get word to him to give to him, and it's just,
I like
it's just a
that
community.
concept.
It's a community within itself.
You're talking about the CO culture then?
No, I'm talking about just the whole
culture
prison
being
culture.
incarcerated.
Department of Corrections. So we got to also understand that the Department of Corrections is not Rikers Island only. I actually was on Rikers as a teenager, and then I ended up working on Rikers as an engineer. So I was in both duality, and the dichotomy of it is, while I'm working there, I'm like, oh my God, I hope they don't recognize me, and
I hope they don't mess up with my idea.
yeah. But while working there, so we got to realize I work for the Department of Corrections, not Rikers. I was programming the security grid. So I had captains, COs, and lieutenants coming to me and asking, how do we do this when it comes to escapes or moderating the cells and programming how the cells are structured. And yet I was a person on Rikers. Yeah. But understanding the reality that 11 jails on Rikers is Rikers Island, but then we still have a jail in every borough and in every city. And this is Department of Corrections, not just Rikers. So let's not focus only on Rikers, because realistically, you got the boat that now that everyone's focused on Rikers and doing the story like the Rikers documentary. Even I'm working with Jay-Z, Harvey Weinstein, and Jenna First doing the movie for my brother. And we're focusing on Rikers. Yet, since they know it's being focused on Rikers, the boat is now suffering. What they're doing to people on the boat now is real beating up.
It's the whole correction.
It's the whole correctional system.
Exactly.
I mean,
But you know, it's funny.
from New York City corrections to New York State, and I'm sure the federal,
Texas.
I'm sure
Yeah.
the federal system and other
It's the
states.
same way. But you know,
are
throughout
far
that,
off.
it's like a whole soundtrack, right? So the only thing you're allowed to get on Rikers is for personal entertainment. The only thing you can control yourself is your Walkman. And you get this transistor radio from Sony, and it only have a couple of AM FM stations, but that's your only way to sort of
Gotta
escape
hope
from
you in
Rikers.
Hope you in a good cell.
Hope you
where
in a
can
good
get
cell
some
where you can get some
stations.
stations. And one of those programs, like we said, is Kay Slay, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. But he has this program called the Drama Hour, which is like an hour after lock-in,
Yeah,
right?
it's midnight
This-
on Thursdays.
Midnight, yep.
On
And-
Hot 97.
Yeah, and it's the only way for people sometimes to get information or sort of network. And then there's like this soundtrack because people have made cone speakers out of the little boxes of crackers, right? Try to put the little headphones in
the
it.
folders,
Or the folders, yeah, the
legal-
manila
the
folders.
legal- the
And we
legal-
make cone
the
speakers, so you
legal
walk by a person's cell and he's got music banging, he's in there dancing, trying to, you know,
what the fuck?
you're like,
How
what the
is
hell
this
is going on?
bumping?
How is this bumping? But music is sort of like this soundtrack. Like even in solitary and upstate, you got headphones. The only option
Sometimes
they give
that's
you is
all you
headphones
really
unplugged.
have.
Yeah, that's all you have.
Especially when you get to those boxes, you have a lot of individuals who are illiterate, who
Yeah.
can't read, who haven't finished high school, no GED, no diploma. And so the music is their only escape. I mean, it's so crazy because it's like how can you feel like you're bettering someone or bettering society or a system by putting someone who's illiterate in a room
Cage.
with nothing? Whereas the box, most individuals, they can get out through their music, through resting, or reading.
Yeah.
Most people, I mean, I was in the box 90 days. I swear to God, I think I read even 93 or 96 books in 90 days.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Because there's nothing to do but read.
Yeah.
Whether even if I'm listening to music, I'm reading. But the individuals that's illiterate, there's nothing for them to do. Music is their only escape to the outside world.
And I remember we was going to court. This was years ago. We was going to court on Rikers together because we was actually there together at the same time. And we in the court. We're ready to go to another court facing the rest of our lives. And this huge search team comes in. Remember that? And they was like, somebody was smoking or something. So they wanted to smell people's fingertips. Like, it's that ridiculous. But it's like we're already facing the rest of our lives. None of us is convicted of a crime. We're here, and it's this whole brutality environment. They come in with sticks and shields, ready to beat the crap
But
out
it's
of us.
when they come, like ESU,
Yeah.
that's like emergency service unit. It may be called something else now.
No, it's
that's,
ESU.
That's basically, they come with, that's the heavy hitters. They
Yeah.
come with all type of garments and like looking like basically soldiers ready for war.
Yep.
Minus, I guess, the guns because they're coming inside.
Well,
the
now
prison.
they have.
But, they do now?
Yeah,
they have.
yeah.
But what I'm
yeah.
saying is,
I know, a lot is going on.
they will come into a house, a dormitory, or a bullpen
Wing.
full of people.
Yeah.
And when they come, like, they come to kick ass. You talking about not normal, most of them are oversized individuals.
Football players.
And, I mean, they come in, and I've never seen them come and not assault someone. Like, someone is getting beat up when they come.
Someone's getting their ass kicked.
I mean, I'm talking about normal shit, normal searches when they come to your house on Rikers Island or on the boat Bronx House, Manhattan House, Brooklyn House, wherever, is they'll come at 4, 5, 6 in the morning while you're asleep, wake you up out your sleep. Everyone may be probably in their drawers or some type of night clothes. They walk everyone to the day room, make you stand, line up like this.
Yep.
They want your heels touching the next man's heels and your elbows touching the next man's, I guess, the back of his shoulders, what have you. And everyone's in their drawers. So when you're heel to heel with somebody, if I'm swinging or whatever, I might be. It's just disrespectful. And if someone protests, good luck. He's going to the hospital. Like when and it's not like one of them is gonna swing. Like they're gonna beat the mess out of you, and they're not gonna stop until you're hurt. And then 9 times out of 10, one of them is gonna say they hurt their hand beating you.
That was a Nunez case. So the
and
guy
you're gonna get an assault charge for
Well,
getting beat up.
Actually. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so the clip we watched, it was a few people involved with it. It's my son, of course, another artist who was also on Rikers Island and attested to the brutality. But then we see Nunez, who actually was the head of the Nunez case. So he was the main line of person in the case for assault. And when legal aid basically came in to do testimony because the correctional officers were trying to get more money, like saying we need more officers, look at all these injuries. And the legal aid was like, wait a minute, all the injuries are just you from punching people, you hurting your ankle from kicking someone so hard, or actually doing brutality. So we look at the system of brutality, and it's never heard from, that's why this film is so important, it's never heard solely from our voices. You're never going to hear the victim side of the story, right?
And you have to see the way they beat people, yo.
Yeah,
Like,
I
they
gotta
beat
say,
people unrecognizable, man.
They make you feel like, I mean, I went into the system not in a gang affiliation at all, yet I had long hair back in the days. I went in with a Mecca shirt. And y'all remember the symbol for Mecca? It was a big M, yellow and blue, and in the back it said 1972, M for Mecca, S. They said I was MS-13. Lieutenant came, held me by my ponytail, and made me look up at him, just as you said. They put you in order, lined you up on the wall or behind another, and held me up while I'm on my knees and said, oh, you're the head of the MS-13. Now, I was 14 at the time. I wasn't 16 where I could be on Rikers or where they said I'm an adult. I was 14 because they said I was 26. But on top of that, to be labeled MS-13 and lead MS-13 and then put me in a blood house so I could fear for my life the whole time. So I had to fight
And
every
they'll
day.
spread that rumor that he's MS-13 and put him in a house with a rival gang. He's not even.
This is murder.
He's nothing.
This is attempt murder. So they not only kidnapped
because
me.
he's getting assaulted within 10 minutes that he goes into that house or dormitory. Within 10 minutes. Like, if he knows Rikers Island, when he gets there, he's not even going to go in. He's going to leave his bag at the door. The officer's probably going to say, go inside. He's going to say, I'm not going nowhere. I'm not going inside. Officer's going to try to make him go inside. And it's probably going to be an altercation right there, because once he gets inside, the officers, they know already what's going to happen.
And what are, the effects of that, if you make it through, of being that young and living with that fear and paranoia and with all that violence, like, what are the consequences of that after you get out? Because I imagine that's
PTSD.
something.
You hear keys, the rattle of a keys still to this day. I'm 34 years old this month, and the rattle of keys, the smell of bleach, the smell of urine. I mean, the hearing off whoop whoop. I mean, any black or Hispanic person can tell you when you hear the whoop whoop.
Yeah,
It's not a good feeling.
It's not.
Like, it's like, oh shit, what's going on?
Like, oh man, they got another one of us.
There's a project that Shutdown Rikers is doing, which is very vital, and it's called Humans of Rikers Island. And they actually go at 12 or 1 o'clock, right? And it was first like, why are you guys going at 12 or 1 o'clock? But this is the time that they let people out
That's
of jail.
what we do.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what we do. So Shutdown Rikers is creating a sort of catalog of interviews of people, but actually being there when they get out. Because, like, this film has exposed the brutality from the voices of those inside, but most don't understand that when you leave, there's little to no resources. You're being left out with just a one-way Metro card. Here you go. Good luck. And it could be after 3 years or years after waiting for trial, right?
And on that ID that they give you, while you were on Rikers, and this is not even sentenced, when you are released on Rikers from Rikers, and you were there waiting for bail or whatever, and they release you at between 12 and 4 in the morning, you're left with a ID card that says inmate. I've interviewed so many people that has that card that
That's
says
all you
inmate.
got. That's
And
your
this is what
ID.
you're going home with. They're not home being released as they're not an inmate when you're in society, but they want the people of New York City to realize that these are animals or people that we dehumanize, and they're not to be treated like citizens or human beings.
And you know, we live in a state. Let me just say this fact too, because I don't know if any of our audience, in case they don't know. So at 16 in New York State, you're considered an adult. Whereas on one side of the bridge in Queens, you're a minor. You can only work 4 hours a day. You can't, take a bus after 8 o'clock. Alcohol. You can't drink alcohol. Your mom's probably got an 8 o'clock curfew on you, and you're probably still in high school. Across the street, you're an adult. You're legally responsible for all your matters. You're supposed to know everything: your medication, your health, your insurance. Meanwhile, everything, right? So I think that it also stems at how we morally justifying incarceration of youth and kids, right? Knowing that a child's brain doesn't develop to 21, 22, why are we incarcerating youth for long periods of time, brutally beating them? A lot of murders and deaths to the point of killing a person, and then releasing them when we feel like it. It's because we have deemed this population, these sort of people, these poor people, disposable. They have no rights,
And I guess there's two things that I want to touch on. First, what needs to happen? How does this get better? And how is your work helping improve the situation? And then, I guess, at the same time, the current election, criminal justice hasn't been at the top of what's been talked about, but I heard, for example, that stocks for private prisons went up when
it
the
went
results
up
came in.
So to $32 a share, almost double.
Yeah.
So what does it mean for your work and for...
It's scary, and realistically, what we need actually, and I've been tackling this issue, we don't need to continue parking lot talking about it. When you sit in a parking lot and talk about the problems that happen in your job. We don't need to do that anymore. We already know. Any black and Hispanic could tell you what happens in jail. Although most whites, when you interview, they don't actually know what's going on. They don't even know the name Rikers. But anyway,
won't believe it.
Yeah.
And so that's why Kathy Moore's part is so part in this film.
But what needs to happen is, now that we know about it, it's not a clue, it's not a secret, it's not hidden, although Rikers is a hidden island, although it's not, but it's hidden on a map. But anyway, what needs to happen is someone needs to start saying, well, these human beings, we need to start from the beginning, middle, and end. We need to start stopping them from coming in. We need to try, with those that still in, we need to try something different like mentorship programs or, something that's going to help them when they are released, and then something when they're home. What are we going to do while they're home? Because as you can see, anyone that's dubbed a felon or has a criminal background, and I include myself with this, we have a hella hard time getting a job, getting paid for anything we do, and now we're being exploited by doing TV interview shows for free. Yet we can't even, how did we come up here? It's a crime to hop the train station, and if we can't get a job to get on that train to get here to do an interview, why are we doing this? What are we doing? We're being exploited on top of already being exploited.
So
Well,
we're gonna
just
leave it up to you.
I'm
We're gonna leave it up to you to right the wrong. That's all you gotta do. Right the
we're giving
wrong.
you
Don't
a
worry about it.
platform to talk about
Nah. But in my opinion, until the shutdown of Rikers Island is complete, I feel like prisoners, inmates, staff, and civilians, whether it be 5 or individuals of the like, have to come together and sit down, I guess, on Rikers Island, because the prisoners wouldn't be able to leave. But it has to be some sort of understanding, because at the end of the day, by no means do I think it's an easy job. I understand that they risk their lives every day. I understand they're just trying to make a living, make it home to their family. So are most of the prisoners that's in there too. However, I also understand that you have some individuals that's unruly, and that is straight up menaces to society. And the question is, what do you do with them? If we're saying, okay, don't throw them in a box, what do we do with them? If they're attacking officers or attacking other inmates, most of the officers are going to say, if an inmate attacks one of my staff, what are we supposed to do? If we don't attack it aggressively, then the next inmate is going to do the same thing. So we have to come to some sort of common ground on, when situations like that happen, what is done. It has to be people in place who are there immediately to examine these inmates, as well as the officers. because it's not fair to either side. But when you see the damage done to some of the inmates, and then they end up getting a new charge, it's like it's no way you can look like that and won in any way. So I mean, it's just crazy because it'll be 4 or 5 police sometimes on a kid 120 pounds. Where it's
look what they did to my brother.
Yeah, it's
only
like it's
5'4", going on 5'5", not even 130 pounds.
Come on,
you
that's
have
ridiculous,
4 officers on his back.
That's ridiculous, man. You're
And
talking
he had-
about grown men.
Cuffs on, shackled to the feet with mittens, and they lied on the paperwork and said he tried to escape to justify why they beat him the way they did. But then when the paperwork came out and when the video came out, because there are video cameras on Rikers, you just have to know when you get released. See, Khalid was smart. What he did was remember the dates that they beat him and the things that they did to him, and remember the dates. And then let it, so when you subpoena the court for those videos, because it's all recorded, everything's recorded, all right? You just have to know the date and time. That's messed up. You can't ask for the whole entire 3 years that you was on Rikers, the video, to prove that you were beat,
every time
raped,
you made a move,
stabbed.
yeah.
So you need to know the date and time, and that's what he did. He was smart enough to remember, and then when they seen that video, one of the many videos that we have, the officer justified that he tried to escape, and the video didn't say that. So what happens? That officer, he didn't get fired, he didn't get put on desk or anything. He still works here, 38 an hour. Now, de Blasio is the ones that's doing this. Let it be known that, one, de Blasio in 2017 is going to be running for office, and he needs us to put him back in office. We have to say we want him in office. So we have to turn around and say, look at the things that you've done. No, we don't want you back, and no one like you. We have the power to do that. You see how they run the trains in Manhattan? Around these lower Manhattan area, train runs smooth. You come up to the black and brown skin area, and that train takes forever. That's because the people know how to fight. They don't train us on how to fight the way that they can fight.
You know, it's funny you mentioned in this presidential election and the political scheme of today, and what are we going to look forward to as the achievements that we've made so far with mass incarceration, and especially Rikers, right? For me, Rikers represents 400 acres of prime real estate in a state that builds very well this way and very well this way, right? We also live in a state that has 60,000 people homeless per night, right? But within the system of mass incarceration that we have been the voices pushing out to get this sort of issue on the table because we're directly impacted by it, because those closest to the problem is often closest to the solutions but farthest from the resources, and we don't have the ability to get those resources. So, like he said, a lot of exploitation happens, but we have been powering the movement with our voices and our stories, and that's what made this film so powerful, because Bill Moyers was a man that said, you know what, I just want to hear it from the side of those who have been through it and lived through it throughout the ages. And there's also a different system that exists on Rikers, because our only good times is when we're in the day room listening to a little music or got this bumping, and you could walk by the CO station, and he's got like the heavy metal blasting, right? So it's like all these different sort of cultures of music and environment as well. Wow, literally, I remember this guy's music was playing in the cell while a search was going on. And it was just odd, because it's Hot 97, so you hear what's going on, you hear the music, you hear the tracks, and people are talking and conversating about other issues. Meanwhile, it's like this hidden world off to the coast of LaGuardia Airport that none of these people are recognizing.
Never.
You know?
But like I said, I think it's very important that both sides come together. If there's ever
No, it's a fact.
For it to be any type of resolution,
Yeah.
both sides got to come together. I mean, the criminals can't have the F the police attitude, and the police can't have the F the criminals attitude, or it's gonna be similar to what we just seen with the election.
The reason, so I'm a Black Lives Matter initiative group. We run, we do marches, and we say fuck the police. You know why? There's a system that's created to put us in that placement. So we don't just, if we had the same things that the suburbs in Staten Island had, we wouldn't be complaining. If we had the same benefits, and maybe we would complain about other things. But you know what? Our schools to prison pipeline system formats us to be in jail. They don't have that in certain communities. So by saying that, you know what, both sides, this is what de Blasio say, both sides have to come together. Ponte, I met with Obama 3 times already.
Saying. I'm saying he asked
there,
for a solution. That would be the solution. However, that's very far from
reality. Well, no, because you know what, that's actually repeating the words that Ponte said this year at the Justice Summit, which he said, we're creating a system which is going to come in 2017, and you're going to have to
West
be aware of
facilities
this.
now solitary.
No, it's a scanner that all police is going to have to scan you and said, well, you match the description. He thinks technology is going to bring us closer to the community, to the police. What he should have been asking is, you community, you people in our communities, how do you want us to get better? Not come up with your own system of
dictating, basically.
It's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
Why don't you ask the people that you are harassing and you are locking up and caging, what should we be doing to make it better?
Yeah, but the point she was
the
saying is...
technology I'm not worried about. Because once they mess up once, all of them, they no good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everything is retroactive. Once one person gets off because the machine messed up, everybody's going to be back in the
Well, you have to
You know
get
that-
off without taking... so what they're offering my family for the death of my brother, if you take a settlement, it's a gag order. So we haven't taken a settlement. We're saying we need litigation, which leads to making precedent, which leads to then, if this man or me gets arrested again, we can then cite that case. That's a resolution that we can have, but we don't need the Rubensteins of New York City to try and fight cases so that we can get money. He's not fighting any case. To come in there and settle is what these lawyers do, because they know
They
it
just get
fucks
a
over
chunk
the
of money
families.
real quick.
Because
Yeah.
black people
And you
want
gotta
money,
shut
they
up. You
think.
can't talk about
But
what's going on.
what Akeem said is so true, that this is one of so many cases. I have advocated, like, outside of the DA before we got Robert Johnson out, the DA's office, for death after death after death after death. But you don't hear about those cases. This is what made Khalif's case so powerful, because the family said, no, I'm not taking any amount of money for my child's life. This needs to be corrected. And the sad part in America is that we have to show harm to show wrong. And that's wrong, right? If it's wrong, it's wrong. It should just be ended. But we have to show harm. So we have to say, my son suffered like this. My daughter suffered like this. My father went through this. My uncle went through this. But you never hear that, That's why I said in this great time, this film is powerful, because you hear the voices of different people. You have musicians, you have artists, you have activists, you have people, and then you have this totally objectified to this environment sort of woman just dropped into that environment. So even the average citizen, it's not a safe environment for anyone. And that's correctional staff as well, who is just other New York citizens. Now,
And they get mentally...
yeah, and I didn't think about that until I started working
What about
with
the trickle
kids.
effect that my mother now has passed just 2
I've seen
weeks
this
ago?
destroyed families.
It
literally.
destroys families.
Families.
Now my brother, who now was extremely close to my mother, is now speaking suicidal. This doesn't just happen to Khalif. It happens to the mothers
The
who lose
community,
their son,
everything.
who had to cut her son down from our backyard because the system didn't only torture him while he was there, but when he came home, they also tortured him by following him around, because now we have a lawsuit and he's naming names. So let's get this kid to kill himself is what they did. They stayed by my mother's house in an unmarked car, and we in a black community know what unmarked cars look like, and maybe
We know
everybody
every
doesn't.
other car in the neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah,
The
and
insensitivity,
stays in
too,
front of
man.
the parents' house until the kid comes out, who's to them snitching, dropping names of officers who beat him, and then decides when he comes out the house, drive by like this with a hand to go like this, and we got him on video. Yeah,
And they supposed to be
Yeah.
for
they're supposed to
serve
on their
and
cars.
protect.
Yeah, on their cars it says CPR, courtesy, professionalism,
And respect.
and respect.
And you're paid to tell on people, and doing this, telling somebody they're a snitch, because you're violating them. Him and his family pay your salary. Like,
That's another thing, yeah.
I mean, it's
there's so-
crazy,
yeah.
but
There's so much
The money
it
needs to come
affects
from
everyone
the
differently too.
precincts, because what we got offered was a $10 million check from the people of the state of New York. That's everyone here, including myself, you and you and you, paying for my brother's death, which we didn't kill my brother. They did. So we want accountability. Don't give us a check that says from the people of the state of New York. Matter of fact, don't give us a check at all, because we're going to gain that check anyway. You did wrong, and in this country, we hold accountable. We're supposed to be.
And that's what I think is the bad part, is there's no accountability.
No.
They have no sensitivity to what they do. It becomes, I realize once they kill one of us, they're then fighting for their lives trying to get off. I understand that, but most of the times they get off anyway. But what I'm saying is, even though they're fighting for their lives, it's like they don't have any sensitivity to what was done. I mean, you have other officers, they'll be picketing and boycotting, and it's like, yo, regardless of what happened, his brother's dead at y'all hands.
Yeah.
That we know. That is not negotiable or nothing.
Yeah.
Like, how can you just be that insensitive?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know,
When do they even come say sorry? I don't know this, but I don't believe they do. Like, do they even apologize? And then
That
the
would be
fact
the
that they
mental
get
guilt.
off is what's the kick in the face. The fact that they get suspended with pay, which to me sounds so much like a
And you know,
vacation.
nobody's exempt from
Yes.
this.
Is-
Every
is
rapper has
crazy.
been on Rikers. Every musician that ever been in New York performing on tours, and sometimes
It's money to them.
It's money for them. So nobody's exempt from this, right? So there's a huge sort of community that we need their voices right now, and this is why this film coming out is important. This morning we had a hearing where they're going to be making West Facility another solitary unit where they can take more kids and hold them indefinitely, right? We have the enhanced security housing unit, which Pont lied to all of us and said he wouldn't do. So we have all of these politics, but now is the opportunity for people to have a public voice.
Absolutely. And I think
Right.
we need to wrap up, so I think that's a good note to end on. If you could very briefly tell us if people want to get involved with your organizations or just in criminal justice reform at all, what you would encourage them to do.
Yeah, you could find on the campaign to shut down Rikers on any platform, on any social media platform. Shut down Rikers, not close Rikers, but shutdownrikers.net, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Or you can write us at our Gmail at shutdownrikers@gmail.com.
There's a whole host of collective projects that we work with to help advocate this. So Jails Action Coalition, Shut Down Rikers, even Close Rikers is out there saying that it needs to be done and shut down, right? The other thing is that the Littman campaign, so actually going onto that website and speaking about what would you want to see with your tax dollars, right? So that's an important part. And also RikersFilm.org, right? Because we want people to understand and humanize this film, but also understand these are the voices from people directly there, right? There's also a call out for everybody who's been there. There is a ton of musicians and artists. I remember when Coogee Rap made Rikers Island the song, right? So there's a soundtrack to this brutality, and we need those voices up front now. Lil Wayne has a cookbook out. He has a book out. Prodigy has a cookbook about prison and Rikers, right? These are the voices that we need on the front line talking about this issue because they know it directly and been suffering from it, you know?
Chi, anything on your end?
I mean, I just want to say that we need the people, man. The people. Without the people, once we get locked up and we're labeled as a felon, our voice is lessened, is shunned. We're shunned from society. Our voice is lessened, and our light is dimmed. So we need the people who aren't felons, to really stand with us and support when we have, whether it's a rally, whatever it is. We need the people to come out and support, because us alone, it just looks like a bunch of angry ex-cons. You know what I mean? And with the people together, that's how we really gonna get heard. Just like what you were saying with the whole elections thing, a lot of my young brothers and friends didn't vote or may just felt like both candidates were bad and what have you. And it's other things other than the presidency that was on those ballots. And it trickles down to the prison system, because if these people get in power and make it so felons can't vote, and that's something that is doable, because in a lot of states it is that way now. You're taking away the voice of probably 60% of the black men in America.
Over 50 million.
You know what I mean? So that is something that's very important about the vote. Forget all the politics, just as black men, young black men, that a lot of us have jackets.
Yeah.
If these people make it so felons can't vote, it's gonna be hard for us to ever have a voice, to ever make a change, and that's a large percentage of the black population.
82% of the United States.
So
And 100 million people are previously incarcerated. That is literally 1/3 of the United States American population.
And just on a statistical note, although we have roughly 9,600 on Rikers,
Rikers.
there's per year 70,000 people who are cycled.
Come
That
through
go
that.
right
Yes,
through.
come
So
through.
that
Spend
number,
a week.
9,000, they love to throw out there. 9,000, we went down from 14,000
that
2 years
9,000
ago.
just occupying right
Now.
now.
Exactly.
That's it.
But that's Rikers Island, remember what I told you. But there's 70,000 that goes through Rikers Island, and then we still have the other boroughs jails. So don't let it confuse you. it didn't really go down. It's just not staying there over long periods of time. They only went down less than 1,000.
And I'm sure they do their census on low days.
Exactly, and it's everything's on paper. There's nothing digital on Rikers. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very, very much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for
This was
having
very
us.
interesting, and so it's always a pleasure to see you guys.
Thanks.
The documentary is 10 p.m. tonight on 13 Rikers, and yeah, thanks.
PBS, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.